We will wield, we will hoist up the fabled artifacts of those we have lost and those that have lost hope. And we will attempt to restore peace to a world on the brink of annihilation. And to help do that, we'll form class orders, powerful class orders, or renew old ones, like the Silver Hand. This is a combination of extremely super exciting features for us. Ian's going to go into a lot more detail on that shortly, but it's amazing, guys. How are we feeling about those demon hunters, guys? Sorry, I can't hear you. I was getting water. How about those demon hunters? Good? We're going to need all the help we can get to fight the Burning Legion. Face demon hunters at all, they all wanted to kill us, mostly. And after this, they may still want to kill us a little bit. So, we will see through Illidan's eyes the story of the demon hunters, the Illidari. We will go back to the moment during the siege of the Black Temple where we see Illidan send his demon hunter Illidari back on a special mission. So, anyone play Burning Crusade in here? Yeah! So you guys remember back in the Burning Crusade when we were running up the Black Temple in the halls and we were all excited to go take out Illidan and we're praying for Warglaives to drop? Well, Illidan had other things going on in the background, like sending his best, most elite demon hunters on a suicide mission. So we'll go through their past into the shattered demonic prison world of Mardum. This is the world that Sargeras created when he was a good Titan to hold all of the demons that he captured in the entirety of the universes. And when Sargeras went bad, this is the world he shattered and released what would become the Burning Legion. We'll go there. And we'll come into the present, where we will go through the secret halls of the Vault of the Wardens. And when all is said and done, we will learn what it means to be a demon hunter and understand the true meaning of sacrifice. And we'll turn into awesome metamorphosized demon hunters. Tom's going to talk on that later. But guys, this is Warcraft. And I did say that this was the biggest Legion invasion we have ever faced. So I don't know if artifacts and demon hunters are going to be enough. We're going to have to turn to the big guy in the sky, or big guys and gals in the sky. And I'm talking about the Titans. Yes! No, well. We're going to scour the Broken Isles for the Pillars of Creation. These are Titan relics that were used to shape the world when it was young, when it was first born. And it's only with these relics that we can actually close this massive gateway, this wound at the heart of the Tomb of Sargeras. Now, speaking of help, Dalaran and the mages of the Kirin Tor, now led by Khadgar, will also be joining us. And that means Dalaran is going to be coming to the Broken Isles and becoming a main hub for players for this expansion. Let's hear some love for Dalaran. We all love it. Now, I can't say where Jaina went, but she was pissed off when she left. Now, let's talk about some zones in no particular order. Our quest to defeat the Burning Legion goes to Val'Sharah. Once the pinnacle of Druidism on Azeroth, now a forgotten Druid refuge on the Broken Isles. This is the place, guys, that Malfurion became the first Druid under Cenarius. So this whole area is steeped in really rich lore, especially if you're a fan of Night Elven Druidic lore. It's all here for you. Here we'll face Xavius, the Nightmare Lord, and his massive Satyr armies. And what are they trying to do? What does Xavius always try to do? He's trying to unleash the Emerald Nightmare into our world. So along the way, we'll meet up with demigods, like Cenarius, and should be pretty stoked. And Ian's going to show you some awesome stuff there later, too. But if we can't fight back Xavius and stop the Nightmare from coming into our world, it's pointless. Pillar or no pillar, we can't beat the Legion. So what are we going to do? We're going into the Emerald Nightmare, and we're going to dispense some justice. And while we're there, we're going to get a couple big glimpses into the Emerald Dream. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's time. All right. Thousands of years ago, in search of their Holy Land, the halls of Valor and Helheim, home to two Titan keepers that have been warring for thousands of years. We'll also learn of the origin of Valkyr and the Kvaldir as we ride the massive ship of souls, the Naglfar, into the maw of hell. And all the while this is going on, we'll be fighting the Vrykul's God King and his minions, who are now pawns of the Burning Legion. Stormheim's a beautiful area, by the way, and totally scary. Azuna. Oh, beautiful Azuna. So when I first talked about what this expansion was built upon, the bones of that ancient Night Elf civilization, nowhere is it better represented than in Azuna. The first moment you step on the territory, on the zone here, you will instantly see that this place was once something very special. And it's still special in a different way. Here we'll discover the ghosts of ancient Night Elves of the area, a dying breed of the Blue Dragon Flight, and we'll be introduced to the Nightfallen, exiled royalty from Suramar that have been left to die outside the protected walls of their city. We'll also be racing someone named Queen Ijara and her minions for control of the Pillar of Creation in this zone. Overall, a pretty epic experience. Moving on. High Mountain. High Mountain. At the highest point of the Broken Isles, we find High Mountain, home to the High Mountain Tauren, the keepers of the relic of Khaz'goroth. Also, the keepers of really badass horns, if you paid attention to that cinematic before us. If you didn't, you got to check it out. Huge elk horns. High Mountain's rough terrain. Rough, tough, it'll kill you. Which is why only the biggest and strongest creatures of the Broken Isles live up here. Like the Drogbar. And we're going to have to kill a lot of Drogbar to save this world. And while we're there, we're going to visit the lair of the Earth Warder, Neltharion, and seek some answers, and hopefully get some answers. For those of you that don't know, Neltharion, during the War of the Ancients, became Deathwing. You know, that guy knows. Became Deathwing, and then during Cataclysm, he just became dead. And so, we don't have him to worry about anymore, but we have other things. While we're up here, we may also run into some other friends. This is a big area, there's big game, there's a big hunt. Nessingwary is going to be close by. A lot of Nessingwary love. And lastly for today, guys, I'm going to hit on Suramar. At the heart of Suramar, we will discover a new race of elves, made off of an old race of elves. These elves have lived here for the last 10,000 years and flourished from the use or abuse of their incredible magical ability. Unfortunately, they have become pawns of the Burning Legion as well. More bad news, they have the last relic that we need. So what that means is we'll have to kill every single one of them, plus all of the elite Legion guards that guard their city, and probably Gul'dan to secure that last relic. I didn't say it was going to be easy. One last thing before I hand it off to Ian. I want to head off one question. I know there will be thousands of them after this presentation is over, but one question. This is a question that we have been asked at every single BlizzCon since the inception of BlizzCon. And I'm happy to announce it here at Gamescom. What about Illyria and Turalyon? Their time is here. Thank you. Ian?
All right, hello Gamescom. Thank you, Alex, for that great introduction to the Broken Isles and the world of Legion. And I want to talk a bit about artifacts and class orders that you saw in the intro video, and then we'll move on to talk about dungeons and raids. So, artifacts. Weapons, obviously, but what are they? What's the deal with them? So, as Alex mentioned, the Legion represents the greatest single threat to our world that we have ever faced. And in order to fight this ultimate enemy, we need the ultimate weapons. We need weapons of greater power than any we've ever had before in order to stand a chance. And that's where artifacts come into play. Every single specialization in the game is going to have their own artifact to seek out and to wield and to use against the Legion. So depending on your class and your spec, that will heavily affect the way your story plays out and what you're interacting with in terms of the system. So, well, what are they? How do they fit in? The first thing you're going to do when you begin the Legion experience after the events of the Broken Shore is seek out the artifact for your spec. Follow your destiny and heed that calling to take up this ultimate weapon. And that experience is going to vary depending on what class and what spec you play. So, for example, if you're a Retribution Paladin, you'll be returning to the location of the Broken Shore to find and seek out Ashbringer, where it fell in battle and was lost, so that you can take it up and wield it. If you're a Protection Warrior, you will follow up on the legends of an ancient Vrykul king who was buried with a sword and shield from the scales of the dragon Neltharion, who later went on to become Deathwing. You is go to Icecrown Citadel, find and seek out the shards of the weapon where they lay after the fateful encounter with the Lich King at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. You will take those shards up and you will reforge them into a pair of rune blades that are the ultimate Frost Death Knight weapons. Deeds in the world, you will also earn artifact power for your weapon. Artifact power is something you will earn through a wide variety of activities, whether completing a major quest line, killing a dungeon boss, outdoor objectives, winning a PvP battleground. Virtually any major type of activity in World of Warcraft will contribute to leveling up your artifact. Now, this artifact power that you earn, what do you do with it? Well, you're going to spend it to unlock traits that empower your weapon and empower your own character. In addition, you can also have a number of visual customizations that you'll be able to unlock and explore. Ultimately, you control the destiny of your artifact. You customize the path in which you unlock those traits, and you choose your path to greatness. Now let's get into the system a little bit more. So, Ashbringer. This is a quick screenshot of the UI for Ashbringer. Now, each artifact has a trait tree like this. It's kind of a grid that is overlaid on the outline of the weapon itself. And as you earn artifact power, you can spend them to unlock these traits. Once you unlock a trait, the adjacent nodes unlock and become things that you can spend a power in. And ultimately, you choose what you want to work towards. You choose how you want to navigate this tree and what you want your weapon to be. And at the far ends of the trees are major impactful abilities, such as the one we see on the screen here. This is something that will essentially cause your Ashbringer to duplicate some of your most powerful abilities. Let's look at the Frost Death Knights. Again, different weapons, different silhouette to the weapons, and therefore a different outline to the grid, but ultimately the same general concept. You begin at a central location and work your way towards the things that you most want. As you earn power, spend that power on traits, and unlock powers. Some of these are going to be simple damage increases, others are things that transform your rotation, others are new major types of utility, like the one we see here, that allows a Death Knight to basically use Ray's ally on themselves to resurrect themselves in the heat of battle. Now, visual customization. So this was something that may have flashed by really quickly in the trailer earlier. As we see in the menu here, there's Ashbringer, but then also a number of different variants on Ashbringer. We understand that in a world where many Red Paladins will wield Ashbringer, it's important to really be able to feel unique and like your expression is like your weapon is an expression of the character that you want to play, of the things that you value, and of your accomplishments in the world. So these different looks to the weapon are things that you will be able to unlock through a wide variety of means. Some of them simply by leveling up your weapon, others by completing specific activities, whether they be raiding or PvP-oriented or more completionist things in the world as a whole. And within each of these looks, there's also a large number of color variants. So there's a tremendous total number of combinations for how you can have your artifact look. Now, with Ashbringer, what we generally did, and what we've done with all of the artifacts, is you get the base weapon that looks like the sword you know and love that you've always seen in Tyrion Forgering's hand. It's the Ashbringer. Then there's sort of an evolved, upgraded version of it that once you reach a certain level of power with your weapon, you'll be able to unlock. But then we gave our artists the challenge of really just going off in exciting new different directions with these weapons, of trying to reimagine the fantasy of the sword, and that led us to things like an Ashbringer that's made out of pure fire, or a corrupted shadowy Ashbringer, or one that is shattered and being held together by crackling lightning. All of these have the basic silhouette of the weapon we know, but they have a very, very different feel ultimately, and there'll be things for you to work towards and use as an expression of the character you want to play. So I know I've talked a lot about Ashbringer. Let's look at some other weapons. So if you're a Mistweaver monk, your adventure will begin by returning to Pandaria to seek out the staff of the Emperor Xiao Hao, who's really integral to the very legend and the essence of the continent of Pandaria. So here on the far left, we see the base weapon that you'll initially acquire, then an upgraded version of it. But then we've reimagined that staff in with the inspiration drawn from the various animal gods of Pandaria, whether it's Yulan, the jade serpent in the center, or Chi-Ji, the red crane on the far right, or a Sha-influenced, Sha-corrupted staff, second from the right in between those two. Those are all things to work towards, and again, you can kind of pick the look that you want, pick the thing that excites you most to be what you show off. Ashbringer. Exactly. I can't say enough about the amazing art and the work that our artists have done on these weapons. They just blow us away. So yeah, the base Ashbringer, the holy version, and then fiery, shadowy, and lightning. Large variants, but they all have that essence that says this is Ashbringer. Next up, a new one to many people. So Fellow Malorn. This was actually a spell sword wielded by Mage Kael'thas. Kael'thas used this in his battle against the Lich King at Icecrown Citadel, and the sword was lost there. So if you play a Fire Mage, you will begin the expansion by seeking out that blade. And when you take it up, you see the base version on the left. It is, a very Blood Elf origin fire spell blade, an evolved version, but then the fantasy goes in different directions from there if you want to customize it in a Fel direction, or sort of a molten lava direction, or the heavy Titan influenced one on the far right that has a very different feel to it. It's all up to you. The Eagle Spear. So this is something that is new to the lore. It's heavily associated with the High Mountain Tauren. This is basically a fabled weapon of the Tauren tribe in High Mountain that you will seek out. You will track down the powerful creature that claimed the life of its last wielder, defeat that creature, and take this for yourself. The animal inspirations for the spear, you see, the base version is themed after the eagle. Then in the center we have a wolf theme, a serpent, and a bear on the right. This weapon will be something that survival hunters can seek out and claim. So next up, Frost Death Knights. So these are the blades that you will forge from the shattered shards of the greatest Death Knight weapon of all time, Frostmourne. The base version on the left, and then the initial upgraded version second from the left. Now, for these weapons, we actually didn't go in such crazy different directions. We didn't do a fiery sword. I mean, they're all kind of, it's a question of what you like most as Death Knight. Do you like skulls, or frost, or more skulls, or different skulls? But they're all different variations on the essence, the fantasy of what being a Death Knight is. And, you know, when you think Runeblade, this is what comes to mind. That is what your artifact needs to mean to you. Doomhammer. So this weapon will be claimed by enhancement shamans. Enhancement shamans will seek them out and pair this hammer with a pair in your offhand that is made of pure energy so that you can dual wield properly. The base version, of course, the one we know and love that we've seen Thrall carrying around for so long, and then various variants of it, the Fell version in the center, a fiery one to the right of that, and then a magical crystalline one on the far right. All the essence of Doomhammer, but different fantasies to explore. Let's see, what's up next? So, Feral Druids. So, Feral Druids can seek out the fangs of the first Nightsaber. And on the far left here, we see a Druid with the base initial artifact that just claimed it. He's like a level 100 Druid. He's been playing the expansion for an hour or two. In the middle, we see a Druid with the upgraded fangs of the first Nightsaber. He's been playing for much longer. He's attained a more powerful artifact. On the far right side, we see a Druid with spectral fangs of the Nightsaber, and it's a totally different look of the weapon. I mean, you can see how awesome the weapon is, right? Oh, right, yeah. I guess you can't really see the weapons on Feral Druids and Guardians. That's a shame. I mean, being able to customize your weapons so much, Druid. Instead of customizing the look of your artifact, you will customize the look of your form. So on the left, here we see a Druid with the base fangs for the first Nightsaber. On the right, that spectral variant. Now, of course, there's many different color variations on each of these, and more entirely different models that we just couldn't fit on this slide, but there'll be the same number of variants as every other class has. So that's something for, Feral Druids and Guardian Druids to look forward to. Oh, and by the way, yeah, on the last slide, that was an updated version of the base cat form, in case you were wondering. Okay, so that's some of what artifacts have in store for you. We're going to have a lot more to discuss, in the future, but that should kind of give you the gist of what they're all about. Now, class orders. So, as Alex mentioned, in the aftermath of the events at the Broken Shore, our world is in flames, and we are struggling to survive in the face of the Legion threat that will just overwhelm and destroy us all if we don't stop it. And the Alliance and Horde, they're just not going to be able to come together and work together in the ways that need to happen to overcome this threat. But instead, it's the classes that actually band together to do that. Whether it's ancient orders like the Silver Hands at Light's Hope Chapel or the Mages of Dalaran, they're coming together, working together as a class to save the world and to do what needs to be done. And of course, they look to you as their leader, because you are the one who has just retrieved a fabled artifact of incomparable power. You are the wielder of Ashbringer. You are the wielder of Doomhammer. Who else would lead them if not you? And so this really underscores one of the central themes of the Legion expansion, which is really a heavy focus on class identity. We want you to feel, if you're a warlock, to feel like a warlock, and for that to feel different than being a paladin, because they're about very different things. Even if their goals are the same at the end of the day, which is to defeat the Legion, they're going to go about it in very different ways. They're going to have very different allies. They're going to have very different powers to call upon in the process. So the Order Halls represent a base of operations for your class. They're kind of like a private clubhouse that you share with other members of your class. It's a shared space where you'll see other paladins running around or other shamans. It's not personal like the garrison, but it is a private space just for members of your class. The best analog is probably something like Acaris, the Death Knights are familiar with, the necropolis floating above the Plaguelands that is only accessible to Death Knights. So, and these will be in locations that are thematically appropriate, and one of the sort of the second thing you do after claiming your artifact is going to be to found and come upon your order hall and establish it. So shamans will be in a hollowed out cave overlooking the Maelstrom at a point where all of the elements come together, where lightning crackles in the sky overhead and molten earth churns in the middle of a swirl of demons all over the place, so that warlocks Order Hall is actually going to be on a Legion portal world, where only they can travel because that's what they do. That's what warlocks are. That's part of being a warlock. So this is a screenshot of the Paladin class order hall beneath Light's Hope. This was something that was shown briefly in the video, and every class is going to have their own unique space that they will return to with unique functions. This will be the place where you go to customize and upgrade your artifact. This will be the place where you have certain special quests and other missions